Senator Inhofe, how are
Hello,
you today?
Phillip. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you bet.
Yeah, and so we have also Jeremy Coleman here, who's actually the general manager of Crossover Radio and the host of the Lunch Rush here with us. And we're just honored that you would take time out of your busy schedule to speak with us.
Oh, sure. It's my honor. It's my honor. And by the way, we've got to talk about this Museum of the Bible. I was there. I've been there several times during the construction phase of that, and I don't think you can't even describe what it is. And it's so proud that that's Oklahoma that did this. That's the Green family. And,
Yeah, it is.
I'm old enough, Philip. I remember back when the Green family was making picture frames in their garage. So look at them now.
Oh my gosh, yeah. No, we are big fans of the Green family
Absolutely.
and how Hobby Lobby has been such a cornerstone of this community and just the really good work they're doing, not just with Hobby Lobby, but giving people just really good jobs. I mean, you're not going to find anybody in Oklahoma City that's going to say anything bad about the Green family because of the really awesome jobs that they provide.
And when they had the courage to put up risk millions and millions of dollars, because on the abortion issue, when Obamacare came out, and they were going to be forced to address that in a positive way or in a negative way, we would say, and they were willing to take it all the way to the United States Supreme Court and then win it on a split decision. You stop and think, if Hillary Clinton had won the presidency, that would be, that'd be reversed. That Second Amendment rights would be gone and all that. So it's a huge thing. I'm so proud of them. In fact, I've already got an appointment to see the big production, Amazing Grace, that is playing there in the museum.
So, Senator Inhofe, thankful that you're joining us this morning, and we do have a question about the Museum of the Bible. What do you think that museum means specifically to the city of Washington D.C. and what does it mean to folks all around the world? I mean, I know you've been there and you've kind of been a part of watching this process and that kind of thing. What can you share with us about?
Well, when you come into Washington, there's so many things of perversion that are available to the public. So many countries out there look at Washington, look at some of the things that we do, remember the last administration, and come out with something in terms of the things that we don't believe in. This is the first time there has been any of the attractions in Washington, and we're talking about all the attractions that are out there that Rockefeller, the things that people visit when they come to Washington, D.C. The first thing that is just 100% Jesus. And it's all faiths, of course, but it talks about the Bibles, the history of every Bible that's out there. And it's you go through, I've only been through it once since it was finished, but I was through it several times while it was under construction. And it takes several hours to actually do this. And it respects every religion all over the world. It gives the history, gives the backdrop, and then of course it's one that everyone realizes it's one that is a mission that really is, and it's free to the public. It's something that anyone can avail themselves of, and it's something that is. When you come to Washington, you expect to go through all the different attractions that are there. But this is one that is second to none, and it's just a thing of beauty going through. For example, they have an auditorium. Now, I haven't seen the production yet. I'm going to do it next week. I have a reservation to see it. That's Amazing Grace. It's going to be on and played all the way from now through the 7th of January. If anyone's going up, they have to try to get in on that. But the auditorium that they actually have the ship coming over, and you can see it on the side. It's like you're in the ship, and you can just. It's something that is a state of the art that we're going to be seeing in the next years to come, and so it's an absolute must for anyone who is making a visit.
Awesome.
Senator Inhofe, this is Phillip here, and I apologize. There's a little bit of a lead up to this question I want to ask you, but as I was thinking about kind of the questions that we could ask, there was really one that continued to come to the forefront of my mind, especially as we've watched these past couple of weeks as the tax bill has progressed through both chambers and into conference. And so at Crossover Radio, we were talking about before we came in, one of our cornerstone principles is to have honest and impactful yet civil commentary with a Christian worldview. And so my question is this, and if time permits, I actually have a follow-up. What do you think has contributed kind of to this growing animosity that both parties have for each other? And do you think we'll ever get back to the point where we do big things in a bipartisan way?
Okay, well, see, you say get back to, we've never really been there. It was more so, I think, in the past. But keep in mind, I wish there was time to give you the right answer to this, but the short version is that we have a political system where it all starts in someone's backyard. And they'll have a meeting and decide on the Democrats on one side of the street, the Republicans on the other side of the street, and they decide two things. Number one, what do we stand for as Democrats and what do we stand for as Republicans? And the second thing they do is they say, who are we going to send to the next convention? That would be the district convention, for example, in Oklahoma. Then they get together and do the same thing. That goes to the state convention. State convention, the same thing. They decide what do we stand for, and then what do we? Who's going to go to the national convention? Now, as you go up the ladder, the Democrats get more liberal, the Republicans get more conservative. So the problem that you have and why they never get together on all these issues is just pick out any issue, and I'll give you a couple of them. Second Amendment rights. Democrats, right down the line, do not support Second Amendment rights. Republicans do. You can read the platforms of the National Convention, and you'll find that to be true. Abortion. The Democrats are abortion. Democrats are pro-life. Republicans are pro-life. Now, when you get into issues like that, there is not a middle ground. And so you're going to have disagreement on that. Sure. A strong national defense. The Democrats do not vote for a strong national defense. The Republicans do. Now, the proof of that is during the Obama administration, he had a policy that you couldn't vote to increase or to stop the disarming of America unless you put an equal amount into social programs. That's not what the Constitution says. So you're talking about some issues where we never are going to be able to get together because the members of the House and the Senate are on the side of those ideals that were articulated in a convention.
Sure, and I guess when I speak about doing things in a bipartisan way, I'm a child of the '80s and became politically aware in the '90s, and so when we talk about bipartisan way, I mean we're talking even going back even to the Reagan tax bill, which passed in a bipartisan way and stuff like that. But it just seems like, at least from my perspective, the last 15 years or so that. When anything gets done, whether it be Obamacare or the attempt to appeal Obamacare or even this tax bill, that it is solely partisan, that it's a straight party line vote. And so my follow-up question is this, is that without naming names, are you aware of any Democrats that would have otherwise voted for either the House or the Senate versions of tax reform, but didn't because of pressure from their leadership?
Oh, absolutely. They didn't want to do it. And they're right now, in this coming election in 2018, there are what I call them endangered species. There's only one in the Republican Party, and there are 9 in the Democrat Party. And so they were trying to say, all right, will you let me off the hook so I can vote for this because I'm going to have to run for re-election. I want to correct one thing, though. I chaired a committee called the Environment and Public Works Committee. The person who was with me on that as a ranking member was Barbara Boxer. Well, we're always listed historically as I've been in the topmost conservative, she's in the topmost liberal. And yet we got the Water Resources Development Act done, the Infrastructure Bill, the FAST Act, the Chemical Bill. We got a lot of those things done. However, when you said back during the Reagan years, I remember those. Now, I was not obviously in Congress at that time, but and I have to point this out because it's so relevant to what's happening today. In 1981, when we did the first major decrease in the tax structure, the total amount of revenue to run America was $469 billion. Well, Reagan came along and changed all the structures down, the top structure from 70% down to 50%, then in 86 from 50% down to 28%. The result of that was huge increases in revenue coming in. That happened. It went up all the way from, almost $1 trillion. Now, the problem was that the Democrats, who are the bigger spending party, they were in charge of the House and the Senate during that time. So as more revenue came in, they increased spending. So the revenue came up, but the deficit still increased at that time. This is going to be different in that one respect, in that we have those that are committed. As the revenue comes in, we're going to reduce the debt. We're going to be doing things and also repairing our military at the same time. So we're in the midst of something huge that's going on right now, Phillip. It's and it could very well become a reality by Friday of this week.
Very good. Thank you so much for your time. I have one last question for you, Senator Inhofe. And so Jeremy and I were actually in Washington, D.C. in October, and we had the privilege to interview your colleague, Senator Langford. And we were there on invitation from the Evangelical Immigration Table. And to switch gears, just one last thing is that we were there on behalf of Dreamers and looking for and actually lobbying senators and congressmen to try to find permanent legislation for those who are considered dreamers who are protected by DACA. And so my question is this, is that do you believe that we will see some kind of permanent legislation for dreamers before the March deadline?
Yeah, I do, because there is that effort out there. And if you segregate out the dreamers that came here, that are through it was not themselves, and they have meet certain criteria in terms of not having any kind of a criminal record or any of that type of activity. Something is going to be done. I can't tell you what it's going to be, but people are working on it right now. We have.
Do you have, because there's several pieces of legislation out there that are kind of being proposed and kind of tossed back and forth. Do you have one that you prefer over another, or are you just kind of hoping to get something done on behalf of dreamers?
I fall in the second category because there are too many. There are probably 20 or 30 out there right now. There are some good ideas on that. We'll have to wait and see, but that is something that people do want to. There is an empathy for those individuals, and that's and there's an argument can be made that there can be a positive effect on our society by including them. Something's going to be done. I can't tell you what it's going to be. Sometime I'd like to talk to you about some of the other things that are going on here in terms of the number of events that are taking place right now on a weekly basis. The House has them, the Senate has them. Jesus is alive and well in Washington, D.C. People just don't know it.
Sure. Senator Inhofe, we know that your time is precious, and we wanted to honor the window that you gave us. And so before you go, we just wanted to thank you for coming on and to talking about not just the Museum of the Bible, but also what's going on as far as the tax bill and then to talk about dreamer legislation as well. And we appreciate you and appreciate that you would give us your time.
Anytime. I'll be looking forward to our next visit.
Thank you so much, Senator.
That was great. Thank you.